Good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well. Today I want to talk about strategies for dealing with trauma. Before I get started on this topic, I just want to say I'm not a licensed therapist, mental health professional, or psychologist. And I just want to give a trigger warning because I will give some examples of some traumas. Everything I'm saying here is from either my life experience or my friends' life experiences who have gone through trauma. So the first thing I would say is process your trauma and don't deal with it on your own. Obviously, every trauma, whether it's a toxic relationship, a sexual assault, a rape, a toxic breakup, being cheated on, a parent's divorce, as you can see, they're all different in scope. And I think a lot of people hide their traumas or don't want to talk about them / process them in an appropriate manner for several different reasons. Some people aren't educated on recommended ways because psychology and mental health still are pretty stigmatized. There might be shame or guilt associated with the trauma, and then the tough nature of what's happened may be a reason for them really not to want to engage or talk about, that incident or time period. And to anybody that's having these responses or had these responses, I just want to say that makes sense that you're having them. It's not easy to dive into a terrible time in your life and talk about it. It's easier to kind of just focus on today and more lighthearted topics. I would just say, in my opinion, to be your best self and to minimize the effect of that trauma on your life, realize you must process what's happened. Because if you don't process it, that trauma can stay and linger on with you throughout your life. So you may say, now, what are some methods for processing? And this goes to my second piece of advice. Obviously in terms of talking about it, I think a mental health professional like a therapist, especially a trauma-informed therapist, might be the best option because they're trained to be able to understand these topics the best. If you can't, see a therapist for any number of reasons, if you're able to talk to family or friends you trust, that may also be helpful. They may not be able to respond in, a manner of understanding psychology, but they can at least listen. And I think the third thing is journaling and just writing down, things, that can, hopefully help with getting those from your brain onto paper and kind of just another method of processing all that's going on in your brain. The third thing I want to say is understand you will deal with it in your own unique way. Though we characterize groups of traumas together, like sexual assaults, they are all different. Every situation is different. How old you are, the manner, who the person was, did you know them, what your relationship was with them if you did know them. In that way, understand your journey will be unique to you. Obviously, you can read up and listen to others who have been through a similar journey, but know your timing will happen at your own pace. You don't need to be like, oh, this person, it took them 1.5 years to kind of heal. It should also take me 1.5 years. I think the fourth question I would ask is, can you join a support group? Just being able to be with others who have faced the same pain may be helpful, especially if no one in your friend group has a relatability to the trauma that you've been through. People in your support group, though again they all have different experiences, will have a mutual understanding of that type of trauma because they've been through it themselves in some manner or fashion. The fifth thing I would say is don't let it affect your self-identity or self-esteem. I think people often let their trauma affect how they see themselves. young kids might say it's my fault my parents are getting divorced, or a person in a toxic relationship might say it's my fault because I brought them into my life. The actions someone did to you to inflict trauma on you is a reflection of them, not you. You are not damaged goods. You are a perfectly good human being. Don't ever let your self-esteem be altered because of the traumas you've been through. As time goes on, begin to see people independent of the trauma you faced, right? And this is obviously the hardest part, but future situations where the trauma may come up, maybe you're in a situation where you were in a toxic relationship and now you're dating again. You have to, and it'll take time, you have to see people independent. You can't go into it thinking that this situation might arise again. And it's a really tough task because our life experiences make us who we are. But try your best to really view people independently. The seventh thing I would say is tell close friends about it if you can. If you feel comfortable, I would tell your close friend group so they're aware. I have a friend of mine who's been raped before. And she, for that reason, doesn't like people touching her. And just being aware of that, like her telling me that, was really helpful in terms of, our developing a friendship, and then also when we're hanging out, say at a party or in public, whatever, I'm well aware of that fact, and it just helps me be a better friend. The final thing I would say is don't forget how strong you are. I think a lot of people, because they've been through trauma, feel weak as a result of them. Realize it takes strength to endure what you've been through and to move forward and to be as normal of a human being as you are. As we talked about before, traumas incurred by other people only show you the other person's character, not yours. You are strong, you are resilient, and you are amazing. I hope these have been helpful to anybody that's dealt with trauma. Let me know any comments that you have or feedback. And yeah, hope you guys are doing well. Thanks, guys.